Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Unbalanced with me, Cerys Davage. How are we all doing? I'm excited again because I'm sat down with a new interviewee today. Sophia, hi.
Hi,
How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Very excited to be here.
Thank you so much for agreeing to come onto the podcast. I'm very much looking forward to meeting you and getting to know a bit about you because it looks like you're in theatre, am I right?
You are correct. I am a musical theatre performer, so I just graduated in July of last year. So I've got a degree in musical theatre and I do a lot of dancing and I do some teaching, so I do dance teaching as well. And I'm also very passionate about equality and diversity in general, so I do bits of consultancy for that as well.
Cool. And where are you from and where are you based now?
So I'm from Essex, and at the moment I'm split between living in Essex and living in London. I'm very lucky. I'm very lucky to have divorced parents. That's not really what I mean, but one of my parents lives in Essex and one of them lives in London, and that's really helpful because they're both close to London. But like, it's nice to be able to spend some time in London and then go back to like my home base in Essex. So I'm sort of split between the two.
Cool. Okay, so you're in theatre, which is obviously a field that I'm very interested in, field that I grew up loving. So I came across you because I saw your dancing videos online. Can you tell me a bit about, have you always wanted to be a dancer? Why did you decide to put it all online?
Great, of course I can. So it's all I've ever known really is wanting to be a dancer. I started dancing when I was like 3 and I'd just gone along to these classes because my friend was going and I wanted to hang out with my friend as 3-year-olds do. And so my mum put me in the classes and off I went and I went to ballet class and it was great. Then my friend quit after like a year and here I am like 22 years later still dancing. Um, so yeah, I just kind of fell in love with it straight away. And then as I got older, I started doing competitions and shows. And I was just like, wow, like the idea that someone would pay me to do what I loved was like, well, why would I ever want to do anything else? And I was lucky enough to be in Billy Elliot on the West End when I was 10. So that was an amazing experience. And honestly, just like sadly, I don't remember very much of it because I don't have a very good long-term memory. But the bits that I do remember, amazing. And just like the concept of being on the West End at 10,
That
that's
is
kind of wild.
crazy, yeah.
So yeah, that was always kind of my plan. Then when I was 13, I woke up one day in excruciating pain in one of my hips and I couldn't walk, couldn't put any weight on my leg. And that was kind of shocking to everyone because it kind of came out of nowhere, just like overnight, I stopped being able to walk. And I sort of went through doctors and physios. And at the time, I kind of thought, I'm a dancer. I'd been injured before. I'd sprained my ankle. I'd had lots of joint problems. Maybe this is just that. Spoiler alert, it was not just that. I am still there. And so I went through months of different doctors, people telling me there was nothing wrong with me and I was just making it up. Usual sort of medical gaslighting because what else would you do to a teenage girl in pain? Then after like 8 months of fighting and my mum like fighting so hard, I went to see a different doctor and he was like, oh, I think it's this. We're going to do surgery on your hip and hopefully it's going to take the pain away. And it did for a little bit. And I was like, great, off I go back to dancing. That was a small blip. I'll move on with my life. And then some months later, same thing happened again. Back in pain overnight, couldn't do anything, had another surgery. It was better for a bit. And so I sort of went through this cycle a couple of times of like going back to dancing, being really hardcore in dancing, trying to make up for lost time, and then being back on crutches and not being able to walk and being in pain. And yeah, so eventually, sorry, this is going to be a really long answer to your one
Go
question,
for it. No, honestly, I'm loving it.
but she's going to keep going. So yeah, eventually we kind of came to the conclusion that I couldn't spend my whole life in these circles. Like I couldn't just be having surgery and then being better for a bit and then having surgery and then being better for a bit. Like that wasn't sustainable. And so eventually my doctor referred me to a different doctor who was like, what else can we do? He suggested something called a periacetabular osteotomy, For anyone listening that's heard of that or knows what that is, I'm so sorry, because it was the worst experience of my life. I'm not going to go into details because no one wants to hear about it, but it's basically like a pelvic realignment. So like changing the
Wow.
alignment of my pelvis. Yeah. It was not
That's
fun. So I
that's
had that in
insane.
2020, January of 2020. It was my first time having surgery as an adult. So my mum couldn't be with me all the time, which was horrendous. I was in hospital for like 5 or 6 days in just so much pain. I was on a morphine pump. I couldn't do anything. Every time I sat up, my blood pressure just dropped. I felt sick all the time. It was honestly so depressing. It was really not fun. And it didn't work. So all of that was just for fun. And so at that point, I'd kind of come to terms with the fact that my body wasn't going to be strong enough, or it just wasn't going to work in the theatre industry, because I was on and off crutches, mostly on crutches. I was in pain. Lots of drama schools, when you auditioned for them, wanted to look at your medical records, wanted to sort of know your medical history, had you had any big injuries. So I was like, as soon as someone finds out everything that's happened in my life, they're going to go, no, thank you, we don't want that. And so I gave up. I quit, and I was like, well, that's not going to work for me. And I went off to uni to do a course in theatre production, so like stage management and lighting and sound and that sort of thing. I was there for 2 weeks before I had a little mini mental breakdown, and I dropped out because I was like, I don't want to be backstage. I want to be on stage. And I was like, if I can't be on stage, I'm not sure I'll ever cope with like just being backstage. And like the stuff that people do backstage is amazing, don't get me wrong. And maybe at some point in my life, after I've been on stage, that might be something that works for me. But I was like, I can't bear having just missed out and then having to be like right on the sidelines. I was like, that's
Yeah, that would have been like torture, just watching
yeah,
the future you could have had.
yeah. And so I was like, no, can't do it. So I dropped out. And then COVID happened. And now obviously COVID was a horrible thing, but it came at a really great time for me, because I got to spend months just being like, okay, what am I going to do with my life? And like reassessing and just kind of being like, what next? So around that time, I was still working with the doctors trying to work out what was wrong with me. And eventually my doctor was kind of like, well, the pain's in your hip. If we take out your hip, surely we'll be taking out the pain. So like, we'll give you a hip replacement and that should fix it. You know, that's quite drastic, but like, it should work because, you know, we're taking out the problem. But because of COVID, it's an 18-month wait. So I was like, that's a really long time. And at this point, I was also making the decision to just give performing one last shot. I was like, I'll send off my self-tapes, because it was not in-person auditions because it was COVID. I was like, I'll send off my videos to these colleges. If they don't want me, then like that's my final straw. Like, that's it, I can't do it. But if someone does want me and they'll take me on crutches, then I'll go and I'll see what happens. And so that was all sort of going on at the same time. And I made the bold decision to try and finance my hip replacement privately, because privately they could do it in 2 weeks' time. And on the NHS, it would have been 18 months, which would have fallen, had I got into a college, would have fallen right in the middle of my training. And I was like, I can't be leaving my training to go and have a hip replacement. Like, that's just not going to work. And so I did. I used my savings. My family helped me. I did a bit of fundraising. What did I do? I did something sponsored. Can't remember what it was, but I did something. And I financed, I think, £5,000 of it through like fundraising and through family, and then I put a whole bunch of money in, and you know, great. And I had that was completely during COVID, so that one, no one was allowed in the hospital at any point. It was just me on my own the whole
Wow.
time, and it did take the pain away for a little bit, and I did get a bit of relief, but not for long. And so then the pain, yeah, I know, it's like a fun cycle. It's like, whoa, oh no, whoa, oh no. This is how I always explain my story. Like, there's the injury and disability story, and there's the performing story. And obviously it
Mhm.
is all one story because it's all my life. But like, sometimes the timing, I'm telling the story at the wrong time.
You're doing
But
a really good job of like weaving them both together.
thanks.
So yeah,
I'm,
carry on.
I'm trying really hard. Yeah, so while I was auditioning before my hip replacement, this is where I've gone in the wrong order. I sent off my tapes to a place called PPA in Guildford, and they accepted me. And I was like, okay, you know, I'll take it. My tape was a video of me dancing on crutches. And I was like, I'll go. and I'll see what happens. And then the whole hip replacement thing happened, and I was like, oh, maybe I'll be fixed, and it'll all be for nothing, and they'll be like, oh, what a weird video she sent. But it didn't work long term. And so I did spend most of my training on crutches, which was hard. And that sort of brings us to today. I finished my training. I did all my third year like shows and agent auditions and stuff, all on crutches. And now I'm sort of beginning to navigate the world of performing as a disabled artist, in the sense that I've had the hip replacement and it didn't work. And so currently we're in a don't know what's wrong with you, definitely chronic pain. Can we fix it? Who knows? So yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. I think you did a great job aligning your, disability story and your theatre story in one. So
Thanks.
kudos to you for that. That's insane that they still don't know what the problem is. It sounds like it's just been trial and error for you, like your whole life, basically.
Yeah, it really has. And to start with, it was like, oh, okay, like it's just an injury, that's fine. And then more and more it's become like a long-term thing. And alongside that hip problem, I also have only recently, but have experienced symptoms for years, been diagnosed with hypermobile EDS, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and that is just like a fun addition. So like all my joints are kind of unstable, and like I get migraines and fatigue and digestive issues and all the things that come with that as well.
Mm.
And then like the left hip is like the big problem in terms of my
Wow.
joints.
Okay.
So like it's like fun and layered. I've got a little bit of everything,
Just
which
so
is
many things.
yeah, it's so fun.
So the hip isn't to do with the hypermobile EDS.
Well, we don't think so, but who
Who knows?
really knows? Probably the hypermobility has something to do with it, and it definitely has something to do with the fact that I can have had a hip replacement and still kick my leg around like I do, which is, the hypermobility is very helpful there. But we don't think that it's completely related. But also, who really knows? And I was only diagnosed with EDS like a couple of months ago, and so there's not been very long of us like being like, are they linked?
Yeah.
Because currently I see my hip surgeon like once every 6 months or once a year, and we just kind of go in. I go in the room, and he goes, "Ah, still on crutches," and I go, "Yeah." He goes, "Ah, still in pain," and I go, "Yeah," and he goes, "Okay, see you in 6 months," and it's great. I make a nice trip into London, and it's great
Just for
fun.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I guess it's so frustrating, but I love that you've not given up on your dream, which was obviously theatre and performing and dancing, and you managed to find a way around it. And crutches obviously help you with your hips, right?
Yeah,
Was that like a
very.
recommendation, or was that just something that you found along the way of like the trial and error process?
It's always been the only option. So the first time that it happened when I was like 13, I woke up because I couldn't put any weight on that leg. I like crawled to the car, and then my mum literally like carried me into the physio, and then the physio gave me crutches because he was like, you can't like crawl around for the rest of your life. And so that was really the only way I could get around at that point. And so every time that I've ended up back in pain, it's always been my go-to. I mean, occasionally I'll use a wheelchair if I'm having a really bad day, or if I'm feeling like it would be easier just to be pushed around. But mostly I use the crutches, and so it was a long time before I even considered using the crutches to dance as well. It was mainly just like a walking thing. And then when I was like, but I can't give up dancing because I just love it so much, I was like, well, if the crutches help me walk, why wouldn't they help me dance? And I'd always like been able to do like silly tricks and leaps because I had so much hypermobility. Even when I was in pain, I've always been able to do those big kicks and stuff. And I was like, well, if I can do that, like, why can't I do anything else?
Mm.
Um, so yeah,
And here you are,
yeah, very
smashing
much.
it, dancing on crutches, which is something that I haven't really seen that much online. And I don't know why, because, I'm sure there are so many disabled dancers out there, on crutches and wheelchairs. I've seen some wheelchair dancing actually that looks insane. And it gives me a bit of hope because I used to love dancing when I was younger. Can't really dance anymore because I can't really like skip or jump or run.
Mhm.
So the hope that maybe if I am in a wheelchair one day, I could still, express my love for dancing just in a
Yeah.
different way. it's just so inspiring, and I'm sure a lot of other disabled people are looking at your content right now and thinking, okay, well, maybe there is hope for me. Maybe I can't, you know, maybe I don't have to give up on my dream completely. Maybe I can just do it in a different way. So it's so cool what you're doing online.
Yeah, I
What's
think
that been like?
it's been so nice. I've got lots of lovely comments of people being like, "Wow, like I used to love dancing and I'd never even considered that I'd still be able to do it," or you know, I've always thought that I couldn't do that, but now I'm going to give it a go. Or even just in the sense that, like, while you're so, like, you're out there just doing what you want to do, that makes me think that actually I can walk down the street on crutches and not feel embarrassed of my mobility aids. Like, they're there to help. And so that has been so lovely. I mean, there's two sides to it. I've had plenty of not so great comments, and oh, she's moving so fast that, like, she must be faking it. And I'm like, well, no, but yes, I can move fast.
Mm.
Or like, oh, this doesn't look right, like this doesn't work because, it looks weird. I'm like, well,
Tell
no,
me what a disabled dance is supposed to look like.
yeah, I was like, well, just because you haven't seen it before doesn't mean it's weird. Like,
Mm.
it's not my fault that you don't see disabled people in the media very often. We're trying to work on it, we're getting there. But like, if you constantly just see a disabled person and go, that looks weird, then we're never going to get anywhere. I get lots of people like fighting each other in the comments on my behalf, which is like really entertaining to watch. And also I'm very grateful that people are standing up for me. But one comment that I love to see and people say quite often is like, people seem to be shocked that my mobility aids are aiding my mobility. Like, of course they're making me be able to move better. That's what they're there for. And so why are you so shocked that someone who's using something to aid their mobility is moving well? And yeah, you don't always see people on crutches or in wheelchairs dancing, but like, they do it. It's just not as highly shown in the media because the industry isn't ready for that yet. But I'm hoping real soon they're going to start wanting to see disabled people in the media, and like, it is going in the right direction already. Some shows and some forms of media are really opening things up and creating exciting work and putting disabled people at the forefront, but also not always. So
Mm. Yeah, yeah. But you're, one of the people that's taking that big step and pushing it into people's feeds on socials and bringing it out into mainstream media. And people might be confused when they see it, but at least you're showing it to them. You're showing people that dancing on crutches, something to aid you, like you said, is an option. And
yeah,
it's not, I feel like people think if you're disabled, you can't do anything. Like, you've got a mobility aid, but you can, that just helps you get by, like just barely walk. But actually, no, you can still, there's so many different levels of disabilities. You can still do a lot of things. You can still do high kicks, right? On
yeah,
crutches.
exactly.
You can do
And I
the
think,
splits, right?
yeah, I can.
Oh,
Only on one leg, but
wow.
we take it in. But I
Better
think
than me.
lots of people expect disabled people to do the bare minimum, to be able to just about get from their bed to the toilet and be like, oh, that's it. But it's actually not. There's so much more to it. And yes, there are some disabled people who that is the limit of what they can do, and that is totally okay. But there are so many different disabled identities, and I think people sometimes forget that. Like, I sometimes get the comment of like, oh, my uncle's disabled and he couldn't do this. I'm like, well, yeah, but your uncle's probably not a professional dancer. So like,
Mm,
maybe that's why he couldn't do this. It's got nothing to do with his disability. It's got to do with the fact that I've trained in dance and he hasn't. Like, it's disabled isn't the only part of my identity. There's also, I'm a black woman and I'm queer and I'm a dancer and I have passions and I have love. That is not like disability is the only thing and therefore I can only do things that are in the disability box that
mm,
society has given us, which is actually a bunch of rubbish because no two disabled people are the same.
exactly. And a lot of non-disabled people couldn't do what you do, you know?
Yeah, I
Like,
get that comment too. Like, I'm not disabled and even I couldn't do this. And I'm like, well,
right?
that's also because you're not a professional dancer. Like, I have been dancing all my life. And so, yeah, I'm better than you who's never taken a dance class before. Yeah, I've got a video on TikTok that has got like a bunch of really weird comments, and like one of the go-to comments there is like, oh yeah, you keep doing this as a hobby, but like you have to understand that professional dancers, like there's just different needs for them, like, but you dance as a hobby, like that's great. And then I have to be like, oh hi, thanks for your comment, but also I am already a professional dancer, like people are paying me to dance already, but thank you for your input. I will keep dancing as my job, you
Thanks
know.
for your concern, though.
I was like, yeah, okay, fine. The difference between me now and me like 2 or 3 weeks ago when that video was getting big, and like it's got 1 million views now, and most of them aren't for positive reasons. And at that time, it was like really getting me down, and it was like being like, oh, maybe I can't do this. And now I'm just like, oh, look at these losers commenting on my video and upping the engagement without even realizing. TikTok doesn't know you hate it; they're just pushing it out to more
Exactly.
people. Keep
Yeah,
going.
keep them
Uh,
coming, yeah.
and so I think I've kind of got that self-assurance that I'm like, I know what I'm doing and I like what I'm doing and I'm proud of what I'm doing. And if you think it's weird, or you think it doesn't look right, or you think I'm not good enough to be a professional dancer, or disabled people can't be professional dancers, poor you, because I'm having a great time. And
I feel like negative comments can really get to you if you let them be personal, but actually they don't know anything about your life. They don't know that yes, you had so many opportunities because of dance. And yeah, they just don't know what you can actually do. And I
yeah,
think people like to think that they're better or bigger than disabled people, but actually no.
yeah.
We
And I
can do a
think
lot of things.
I always go for the like, that is so great that that's your opinion, but also you're not casting the tour, and you're not casting the musical, and you're not casting the film. So actually, it doesn't matter what you think and whether you think I could be in it at all. The people that opinions actually matter to me are the choreographers and the directors and the people casting these productions. I don't care what Mary on TikTok with 0 followers says. That's not going to change my life.
Yeah. And why do they feel the need to actually comment that on a stranger's video anyway? Disabled or not, you know?
Yeah,
Be like,
I always think
sorry, I
like,
think you should find another job.
yeah, like
How bizarre.
what possessed you to like think something that you know is not helpful or nice or like needed in any way? If you say something in person and you're like, oh, and then you can be like, oh, I shouldn't have said that. But like to type a comment, you've got to think it and type it and press send. That's a lot of time for you to be like,
Mm.
actually, I don't need to do this.
And
Um,
maybe if they saw you in person, they probably wouldn't have said that because they probably wouldn't have the guts to say that to your
So
face.
true. So true. And they also, the like, people be in the comments being like saying mean things, and then like I'll come back at them with like a valid argument, or like they love to say like disabled people aren't as efficient. And I'm like, what does that even mean? But then when I come back and I'm like, actually I can do this and I can move at speed and I can get change super fast, then they stop replying. And I'm like, oh,
Hmm,
where did you go? Come back. I wanted to
interesting.
talk about that. But they just, when they realise that actually maybe I have a point, they're like, oh, bye.
You're educating people one at a time, so good for you. I want to talk about the theatre industry and any misconceptions that maybe you've come across that you might want to address, any stereotypes that you think need to be smashed, not only as a disabled person, but like you said, as a queer Black person as well. What are the misconceptions you think people should be more aware of and educate themselves on?
In terms of disability, I think there isn't a huge misconception in because of the fact that there's so few disabled people in the theatre industry, that there's not really room to have lots of like misconceptions. The main misconception is that disabled people can't be in theatre because you don't see them. And don't get me wrong, last year or so it has upped. There was Little Big Things in London that was great, featured loads of disabled people and was about disabled people. There's a disabled girl in Hadestown right now. Like, it is starting to move in the right direction. But I think it's a tricky one. I also think it's really important to have disabled people not only in disabled roles. And so, like, I loved the Little Big Things. It was amazing. It was a story of Henry Fraser, who ended up in a wheelchair, and his story and how he kind of created a brand new life and did something that he loved after his accident. And that is amazing. And so the person playing Henry was in a wheelchair, and there was another character in a wheelchair that was played by Amy Trigg, who is a wheelchair user. And that's great. But I would also love to see more of characters whose disability isn't part of the plot and them just being disabled. And particularly for me, that's something that I want to do. Like, I want to go and be in ensembles of shows and just be a disabled person in the crowd, because like in life you walk down the street and there are disabled people. So something like Jamie, everybody's talking about Jamie, is based on a year 11 high school class. Now tell me a school class that hasn't at some point had someone on crutches. You know,
Right.
disabled people go to school, they could be there. Something like Mamma Mia, it's just a bunch of people on an island. Disabled people also go on holiday, you know, like contrary to people's beliefs, we do go outside. And so, yeah, I think that sort of thing, like, not only, I mean, yes, tell disabled stories, really important, but also would love to see more of just like disabled people existing, because there are so many disabled people in the world. Why are they not existing in the media too? And I think the same goes for Black and queer people. I think that's moving slightly faster than disability. I think we're getting more of Black people in roles that are typically white, but their whiteness has got nothing to do with the role. I'm trying to think of one off the top of my head. Well, Cynthia Erivo in Wicked, and also the new Alpha Brain Wicked on Broadway is Black. There's no reason. In fact, there's a great reason as to why Alpha should be Black, but you know, anyway, she's great.
Yeah.
Um, but I think that's really important. There was a Black Glinda in Wicked over here as well. Like, those things are happening a bit faster than disabled people kind of being at the forefront. Like, I don't see any time soon that like you're going to see Hamilton and Hamilton's in a wheelchair. You know, there are some parts that you'd be like, oh, you know, probably not. And in the same way, there are some parts that the whiteness is integral to the role that you wouldn't give it to a Black person because it wouldn't make sense. And there will be some roles like that, but not as many as one thinks. Also, make Nessa in Wicked a wheelchair user. We did it in the film. We should start doing that.
What's the excuse?
Like,
what is the excuse, right?
and everyone's go-to comment, yeah, but she walks in Act 2 and she gets up and she walks around. Oh, did you ever know that there was people in a wheelchair who can take a couple of steps? Whoa, it's so crazy. They could do it.
Hire me right now.
Yeah,
I can
exactly.
do both.
And this is the thing, like, you're not going to have someone who absolutely can't move at all. There's differences, but there are people who could easily play Nessa.
Well, thank you for sharing that insight into casting and life in theatre and how far we've come, but also how much work we still have to do and how much education and casting the right people there is still to be done. And it just gives me a glimmer of hope because I studied theatre, and that's when I came across my first few hurdles as a disabled person, because my disability is degenerative, so it'll just continue to get worse as I get older. And there were some things that the directors would suggest and I couldn't do it, and they'd be like, okay, well, what can you do? And I'm like, oh, I have to adapt myself to so many of these situations rather than adapting the situations, rather than adapting the set or the props or whatever to me. I had to constantly just be like, no, I can't do this. Oh, I'm going to have to figure out my own way of doing it, which put a lot of pressure on myself and made me think, okay, well, this just isn't a sustainable career for me. It's not a sustainable future because I'm going to constantly have to adapt how I am to different scenarios that other normal, quote, people can do. So that just really put me off, and I've gone down a completely different career path. Maybe that's for the best. Maybe I wouldn't have started this podcast otherwise. But it does give me some hope that there are disabled actors out there that don't feel like they need to change themselves to fit into a certain role, you know, or into a certain category. Do you feel
Yeah,
that?
I think I had such a great experience in one of our projects at uni that really was kind of the opposite of your experience there, in the fact that we did something called Swing Project. So basically you learn a show and you have to learn multiple tracks, and then you perform the show, and then the names are picked out of a hat and you have to perform the show again in a different role. Hilarious, really, really difficult if you don't have that sort of brain. Luckily, I do have that sort of brain and I can remember lots of different things. But we did Cats, which is an almost entirely dance musical about cats with no real plot. Very strange show. If you love it, you love it. If you don't, you probably hate it. But yeah, so I had to learn the tracks of 20 different cats, and we all did, and that's, you know, what we had to do. I was like, this is going to be horrible. Like, I'm going to have to adapt the choreography but like adapt it for every different cat, and it's going to be different. I'm going to have so much more work than everyone else, which in a way is true. But also there was lots of times where it was like, okay, this cat picks up this thing, but I can't pick it up. So then if I'm that cat, someone else has got to pick it up. So it almost became
Ooh.
everyone else's problem that I couldn't do it, and they had to deal with the consequences rather than it always being me. And so like there'd be times where like I'd put my crutches down and someone would have to move them to be in the right place. And it like that wasn't ever my problem. I just put them down and hoped that someone remembered to pick them up. And so it was kind of nice. I mean, I was the problem, but I didn't have to solve the problem. Like I was just kind of being me and having fun. And then it was up to everyone else to like sort everything out. And they were great. And we sort of had like plans for my crutches. So like everyone knew where the crutches were meant to be and who had to move them. And so that was really good. But I think that kind of experience for me was like, oh, okay, like it's not always going to be me who has to deal with it. Like there can be other people who like help you work around it, which was nice. And I really enjoyed that project. And it was the project that I did best in, what's the word? Grades wise.
Academically? Oh, great.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Wow.
The out of my whole time at uni, that was the thing that I got the highest score in. And I had the time of my life. So, you know.
So cool. I mean, that just shows teamwork makes the dream work, honestly, and it doesn't make you feel like a problem then. Like everyone's
Yeah,
willing to take on your baggage and
yeah,
you know,
exactly.
and yeah, that's so great. I'm so happy for you that you had that positive experience, and that's kind of helped lead the way for you and know that there's a space for you in theatre, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I think I took that going into I made my West End debut, well, my adult West End debut / my disabled West End debut in October last year. And I kind of took that into that, like knowing like if I put something down, it wasn't always going to be my problem. So like there was like a bed on the stage and I would be sat on it a lot. And so I'd put my crutches somewhere and it wasn't always my responsibility to make sure they're in the right place. There were other people there to help out. And they actually even put a little hook on the set for me to be able to hang up my crutch. If I didn't need it, I could like put it on the peg, which was really cool of them. And so like also the team that I was working with in that show, the ensemble, were incredible and I love them so much. They'd almost think of it before I even would. Like I'd turn around and the crutches would be there before I'd even like been like, oh, I need to get them now. And so that was a really good experience as well. Like that filled me with confidence that the industry is moving in enough in the right direction to kind of work with me.
Yeah, and
And
accommodate you. Yeah,
yeah, and obviously other
so nice.
disabled people, but I'm
Yeah.
talking from my own experience.
And let's also give Amelia a shout out from Cool Crutches because you use Cool Crutches, right?
Yeah, my queen, I actually love her so much. She
She's
is.
been on this podcast.
Has she?
Yeah, you need
Oh,
to
I
check
didn't
out
know
that
that. I have
episode.
to go. I'm gonna have to go and listen now. She's just the best. Like my favorite thing in the world is Cool Crutches and Amelia. She's so cool, and she has changed she's just changed the game. Like first of all, they're cool, you know, it's in the name. But like they're fun patterns and they're interesting and they can match your outfit and they're like they don't have to be the ugly silver ones the NHS give you. But also they're quiet and they're supportive and they come with different ends to like work on different terrains, and like some work really well for dancing and like some work well for, you know, walking up hills and stuff. And I used to find that the cuffs that go around the top around the arm, I used to find that sometimes when I was dancing, they'd open and close and they'd pinch my skin.
Oh,
And yeah, no, not good, not good. And I called her about it and she was like, oh, I think let's try this, let's try this. And now they make cuff covers that go around them so you don't have to experience that pinching at all. And so like she has just like worked to make it work for me. And I was really lucky that in September last year, I performed at the Paralympic homecoming ceremony. I performed with Katie Baser. Yeah, it was so random, but it was really fun.
oh,
And she was there. She'd been given a ticket. So she got to see me dance in person, and then I got to meet her afterwards. And it was just, it was so cold and I was so tired. And I was like, oh, I just want to go home. And then I saw her and I was like, no, I don't want to go home. I'm so glad to
oh.
see you. It's so great. That was really lovely. And she really has changed the game and she's so supportive. And yeah, just love her. my queen.
What a fulfilling role she has, right? Like
Yeah,
seeing people's dreams come true because of these crutches is
yeah.
just
And like,
insane.
meanwhile, her own dreams coming true at the same time. And I'm like, wow. Like, even right now, she's in Dubai, and I'm like, slay queen, you're having
Yeah.
so much fun, and like, like, you can experience all those things because of the products that you made. And I just think
Mm.
that's amazing.
She's killing it, honestly.
Yeah,
Yeah. So we love you, Amelia.
we really do. We really do.
Tell me what you're up to now and what your future hopes and dreams are.
That is a really good question. Right now, I am just experiencing life. I'm focusing quite a lot on content creation, which I'm really enjoying. A little bit stressful because it's not something that I ever really taken seriously before. But I'm lucky enough to have grown both of my platforms quite a lot in the last couple of months. On TikTok, I think I've got like 21,000 now, and on Instagram I've got over 10,000. Bearing in mind, like 2 weeks ago I had 2,000 followers on Instagram. It's like
By
a big difference.
by the time this episode comes out, it'll be a lot more, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, we'll see. And so I'm doing a lot of that, which is really fun. I'm doing my regular teaching and equality and diversity work, and just kind of getting myself out there, having people see me dance both on social media and regularly going to classes in London, and just hoping that at some point someone, I mean, I'm lucky that I have done a show already, but like hoping at some point I'll go to an audition or a class and someone will see me and be like, oh wow, that could really work.
Mm.
And I think meanwhile just sort of doing the bits of educating, replying to the comments, and setting people straight. And yeah, I think someone told me I should design merch, and when someone tells me to do something, I get carried away. So when you see me selling merch,
I'll be there.
mind the business
I'll be
and
there.
just buy the merch. And so yeah, just bits and pieces right now, just kind of helping elevate disabled voices and showing disabled joy. And I think that's something that is really missing. Lots of people see the negative experiences or like articles about things disabled people don't get and don't get to see their joy very often. And so I'm really trying to push that. And yeah, obviously I'll talk about the hardships and the things that go wrong and the people who don't say very nice things, but I also want to show the like just videos of me having fun, like me dancing, like me walking my dog, like that stuff I want to keep pushing. And yeah, just keep showing people that there's no limits. You can do whatever you want to do. It might not be in the way that you first thought it might happen, but like there's no excuse to not give it a go. Like try, see what happens, make something of it. So that's kind
I
of
love that.
what I'm doing right now.
It sounds like that's maybe some advice maybe you would give to younger people who maybe don't know how to go about this, and maybe if they're struggling with a new diagnosis or their disability and it's still new to them and they don't know whether they can go into industry. Is that the kind of advice you'd give them, like give it a go?
Yeah, I think so much. There's obviously, when you get a diagnosis or you're experiencing a chronic illness or a disability, there will always be an element of like what what could have been, like what would my life be like if. And I totally get that, and I experienced that too. And you're allowed to have grief for that version of your life that didn't happen. But I also think give it a go. Like look at that version of your life that you're grieving and be like, what aspects of that can I try? Can I create? Can I adapt to fit to what I've got now? Because 13-year-old me would never have thought of dancing on crutches. She was just like, this is the worst thing that's ever happened to me. I don't know what I'm going to do. And that isn't the case now. And it took me 12 years to get to where I am. And so these things take time. I don't like expect someone to get a diagnosis and the next day be like, I'm actually on the Olympic wheelchair rugby team. Like that's not how it works. But I think look at what you want to do and really be like, what is stopping me from doing that? Is it something physically? Because obviously if it's dangerous, don't do it. Like if it's going to hurt you mentally or physically, don't do it. But if it's like a societal barrier or like systemic discrimination, push, see what happens, be annoying. I was listening to a podcast earlier and they were like it was like a true crime podcast, it's not relevant at all. But they were saying like be a nuisance, like you have to be loud and proud and annoying to make change. So like if you want to do something and it's like systemically something's not letting it happen, keep talking. Like, it is largely systemic in the theatre industry that like there's no space for disabled people because the theatres aren't accessible. So then they just go, no, can't do it. These things, but you just got to keep making the noise. Otherwise, nothing. If you just accept it and go, right, okay, fine, I'll have to do something else, then nothing's ever going to change. And so part of what I'm doing is for me, but part of what I'm doing is also for like the generations of disabled people that are going to keep coming, because disabled people do exist. There are disabled children being born right now. There are people right now who aren't disabled who are going to be disabled in the future. And I want for them what I wish I had right now. And so like fighting for the change is also for them as it is for me. And so like you don't always necessarily achieve the end goal, but like if you can fight towards doing that end goal, not only will you get to do more, but the people who come after you will get to do more. That was a really long spiel. I hope it makes sense.
That was perfect. Honestly, that was so good. It's like you have like a script in your brain and you just said everything perfectly. Well done.
Stop it. This little brain, she's working hard.
Wow. Well, Sophia, thank you so much for joining me today and sharing an insight into your life. I've really, really enjoyed getting to know you, and I feel so inspired now to just like do anything, you know?
Well,
It's
thank
great.
you so much for having me. It's been so fun. I love chatting with new people and talking about disability, and also connecting with other disabled people. I think a lot of my audience, which is great, is non-disabled people looking at a disabled person and being like, oh wow, that's great. But it's always so nice to like communicate with disabled people and like work with disabled people. Shameless plug right now. I actually teach a class on a Sunday evening on Zoom that is a musical theatre dance class, which is almost entirely got disabled participants, which is mainly sort of there for disabled people. Non-disabled people, you're welcome to join too. Mostly we do seated dances, and that's run through the Kate Stanforth Academy of Arts. You can find them on Instagram, at Kate Stanforth Dance, and they do other classes as well. It's not just me, but their classes all taught by disabled instructors for disabled people. And I think I love that environment on a Sunday. I have a great laugh, and any disabled people who want to take a dance class, get booking.
I'll be there, honestly. Like
Do
this
it.
is
Come along.
why have I not heard of these kind of things before?
Yeah,
Thank you so much for sharing that. Where can we find you on socials as well?
that's a great question. On Instagram, I'm at sophia.adzoa.moore. Adzoa is spelled Adzoa. Except for if you're looking in the programme of my West End debut where it was spelt wrong, but you know, we're going to let that slide. And then on TikTok, I'm at soph with two h's.a.m.
Cool. Thank you so much. I'll also link your socials in the podcast description as well. Thank you guys so much for listening to our conversation today. If you did enjoy it, please let us know. Leave a comment in the Q&A box underneath this episode. Thank you so much to Cure LGMD2I for sponsoring this podcast. Don't forget to follow it and rate it 5 stars. That really helps me out. And don't forget to subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. I'll be back with you guys very soon with another episode. But until then, have a lovely week or two. Bye.